We're partnering with No CD to raise awareness about OCD. OCD is more than what you see on TV and in the movies. Imagine having unwanted thoughts about your relationship stuck in your head all day, no matter how hard you try to make them go away. That's relationship OCD. It comes with unrelenting, intrusive images, thoughts, and urges about your partner or loved one. Breaking the OCD cycle takes effective treatment. Go to nocd.com to get evidence-based treatment. Welcome back. So today is going to be such an exciting episode where I'm going to be chatting with Emily and Lindsey, who are two sisters who both had OCD, and the OCD showed up differently for each of them. So much so that Emily didn't fully recognize her symptoms until later in adulthood. Their story is so inspiring, and during the COVID years, they turned it into something special. Hang around for the entire episode so you can hear their incredible story, and do support them by going to their Shopify store at presentlybracelets.com. Hi, I'm Erin, licensed clinical mental health counselor and OCD specialist. I'm also a wife, mom to 3, and small business owner, helping those who are spiraling from intrusive thoughts to come out of that valley with long-term recovery and self-awareness. Reheat your coffee and pop in your AirPods to learn how to boss up to OCD. I want to welcome some special guests today on the Bossing Up Overcoming OCD show. These ladies are the CEOs of a company called Presently, and they're sisters and also just sound like best friends in life.
Yeah.
And definitely buddies and accountability partners when it comes to OCD. So I'm really super excited to bring their story to the listeners, and I just want to thank you ladies so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, so super curious about your individual stories around OCD, like how it got started, how you knew that's what it was, and how it's impacted you.
Yes.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm the older sister. I'm 35. I kind of have just always remember having some aspect of OCD. In the beginning, it was more of like your stereotypical OCD.
Okay.
When I say that, I mean like turning on and off a light switch, or making sure to check things to make sure that I shut something off, or lining up something.
So, Lindsey, you noticed that your OCD kind of took the form of the more stereotypical OCD,
Yep.
lining things up, washing your hands, those kinds
Yeah.
of things. Emily, how about you?
So I didn't know I had OCD until I graduated college.
Wow.
So, yeah. And so, I mean, Lindsey, if you want to finish,
Yeah.
because there's a little bit more to her OCD.
Got it. All right.
There's
That
a twist.
That was just the beginning. So that was like when I was in middle school, and, having the thoughts that if I didn't do something, somebody in my family would get hurt,
Yes.
or I would get hurt, or there would be some sort of like negative impact that my obsessions, or if I didn't do a compulsion, it would kind of react to that. But then that kind of like always kind of lingered around, and I never went to therapy, just because I was able to manage it. It didn't take so much time away from my life, but it was there. And then in high school, I had a very strange occurrence that happened. Like, I was just at my house, and all of a sudden, I think it was, when I was applying for colleges and all of this other stuff, I had, smoked pot. I tried some, and then, was drinking with my friends. So there was just like a lot of like changes happening.
Sure.
And I had this out of body experience where I thought, I had this question of like, how do I know if I'm alive, or how do I know if I'm not alive and my parents are dead, or like, how do I, just questioning reality.
Yeah.
And experiencing that as somebody in high school where there's so many other, you know, influencing factors into your life scared the
Mhm.
shit out of me. So I
Absolutely.
I kind of got shooken, and not just a little bit, like a lot.
Yeah,
And
I can
it
tell it still, like, impacts you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my experience, and then I didn't realize that that was part of OCD. I didn't realize that that was, like, called existential OCD. I had no
Mhm.
idea that that was a part of it, and I think that was the part that scared me the most because I just was, like, living with this uncertainty in my mind. And
Right.
I think finally my mom, she was doing research, while I was going through this, and this took, like,
Wow.
months and months, months, but finally got me to talk to somebody, and we realized that that was part of existential OCD. And my OCD kind of has had that OCD, but also, mixes in with, like, contamination OCD and other different types of OCD, but that's, like, the major one that I kind of deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Very impactful story, Lindsay, and I really appreciate you sharing that because I'm sure a lot of listeners struggle with similar, if not the same types of questions because the existentialism can really cause you to question your own reality and who you
Mm.
are and what's real, not real, and it's very scary.
Yeah, it's very frightening.
Yes.
It was something that, like, I to this day will always talk about because I never want anyone to, like, experience that without having somebody, there by your side saying, like, "No, this is, like, it's normal." Like, it's like that's part of OCD. It's not
Right.
just
Yes, that and that it's manageable. There's a way through it.
right.
Y
Right.
yes. So I'm
Mhm.
sure that felt very, uh, well, just frightening and also isolating at the same time because when you haven't been in therapy or you don't know how to get better from this, I can only imagine how heavy that must have felt.
Yeah. It took me, like, a long time to feel comfortable enough to, like, start going back to school and, like, doing little things like changing my
Right.
clothes, eating. Like, it literally paused everything in my life and changed me in a way that, like, I had to kinda, like, relearn how to do things.
Right. Absolutely. Yes, so Emily, for you, your story is your own, and you didn't realize you had OCD until after college.
Right. So I remember a few things from like this time period in Lindsay's OCD journey. I remember, you know, we went one time we went to go see Wicked and we had to leave in the beginning of it because Lindsay
I
had some sort of, this not real and she's in a dream and whatever. So little things like that. I always remember being just like an anxious kid. I had separation anxiety. I didn't like to go to school. I couldn't like sleep over at my friends' houses. I would call my mom to get picked up in the middle of the night. I, you know, so like I was just, I would say like a crybaby, if you will. Um,
Oh,
and
or
yeah,
sensitive.
or sensitive, yes. And then I started needing to I think this was more so like middle school where, you're starting to grow into yourself and you have all these like
Yes.
questions about growing up and adolescence and I started needing to confess things to my mom.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I would, call her into the room and be like, I'm struggling. Not, I wouldn't even say these words because I didn't have the words, but I like would sort of just cry and tell her something's wrong and she'd have to pull it out of me.
This was every night. There was
And
something going
according to Lindsay, this was
on.
every night. But what I think is interesting is that like she had OCD at the time. No, we just didn't. It wasn't a connection made
Mhm.
to the fact that my behaviors were typical of OCD. And so I dealt with that all through middle school. And then high school, I think the anxiety was more channeled into schoolwork, which
Sure.
didn't feel like it wasn't like super,
Distressing.
It was right. It
Yeah.
wasn't, like, super stress it wasn't out of the norm of the stress that most people feel, so it didn't I wasn't struggling as much as I was in middle school.
But I
Mhm.
think you definitely did push yourself to having like, not realizing that you had OCD, but continually to study till you
Right.
couldn't study anymore.
Compulsively, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I couldn't eat dinner until I finished studying,
Oh,
which
boy.
again, still no idea, OCD. And then I went to college, and I think it was freshman year, and I had a psychology class.
Mhm.
They mentioned something about, sexual orientation and, like, how that develops when you're, like, in middle school, and I
Right.
had a flashback moment of that being one of the things that I, like, confessed to my mom, like, "How do I know if I like girls? How do I know if I like boys?"
Yes.
And, like, same with Lindsay, I mean, obviously not the same intensity, but, like, an outer body experience where I, like, panicked because I totally forgot. I think I just blacked it all out, what I was going through in middle school,
Mhm,
and it
It's a dark hole of
almost
life.
yeah.
mhm.
So
Middle
it was,
school's
like,
hard.
kinda shoved away, and then this
Yes.
psychology class brought it all back, which then brought, all these other anxieties. If I'm drinking, how do I know if I didn't black out and I don't remember certain things
Oh,
or
like the false memory stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was just a
Yes.
whole slew. Contamination OCD, like, all of it.
Oh my.
And I didn't really talk about it much because the sexual orientation OCD was, like, really heavy on me.
Mhm.
I definitely held it in for 4 years, I would say.
Wow.
Um, and then I think I just got to the point because I was afraid to go to therapy and have to talk about it because I didn't know. I think I was so confused, and I had a boyfriend at the time, and it was just, like, a very deep struggle for me that
You just tried to, like,
I
kind of
tried to
do it on your own.
Avoid.
right. Or, like, I would do things to try to figure it out, so I'd check my feelings, and
Oh, totally.
if I saw someone that was pretty, would I be like, "Well, would I wanna date them?" You know what I mean? So, it
Right?
was just, like, all these actions I was doing, compulsions, now that I know. And then
Mhm.
I graduated, I went to therapy, and my first session, my therapist was like, "You have OCD." And I was like, are you sure about that?" 'Cause
Right, 'cause
Lindsay had it her whole life, and, it was just
It was just
eye-opening.
it was very
yeah.
different in the way that we had OCD and that the OCD, came up in our lives and the way that, like, we kind of work through them, I guess, too.
Mhm. Sure. So, for both of you, it sounds like once you got into therapy, or at least you knew, well, Lindsay, for you, your mom kinda spotted it through her research,
Right.
but it sounds like with the therapy, you kind of got a jump start and were
I was
paired
able
with
to,
a
like,
therapist who already was
figure
familiar
out what
with
it was.
yes, about what it was.
Yeah.
That's great because I mean, you're so lucky in that aspect because so many people go to therapy and think it's just anxiety when it's a
Right.
totally different ballgame.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's important to go to the right kind of therapist. Because I think
Yes.
even, like, Lindsay, you were saying, like, the first therapist she went to was, like, a talk therapist,
Oh,
and
okay.
so she just wasn't helping in the way that, like, someone who has experience treating OCD, and
Right.
so it's
Right.
important to get to the right place to begin with, to know that if you're having these symptoms, it's best to do, like, a cognitive behavioral therapy or some sort of therapy where they give you stuff
Exposure
to
therapy. Yeah.
exposures, right, to do as opposed to just, like, talking through things. Because I think a lot of people have
Yes.
that experience.
Yes. And it, I mean, the therapist is not meaning to, but if they're not trained in OCD, they'll give you reassurance.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, and in talking about your experience with therapy, how was it doing exposure work? I see the sighs.
You go.
I'll go. It was definitely difficult at first,
Mhm.
because my exposure therapy, like, yes, there were some, like, going to the bathroom and not washing your hands situation that was, like, hard, but I was like, okay, I can do this. But then there was the other part of it where it was like imaginals, and I would have to, like, imagine what it would be like if I, found out I was gay or something,
Mhm.
or what it would be like if I guess it depended on what I was afraid of at that time, but I'm trying to think. Oh, imagining if I, cheated on my boyfriend. Maybe I did cheat, maybe I didn't. It was like those specific exposures where you have to put yourself in a situation
Yes.
and not reassure yourself is very difficult.
It's kind of like dipping your toe into something where it makes you feel so uncomfortable
Yeah.
and like you don't know how to react to it because you kind of avoided it all your life.
Seriously.
Um,
Yes. So, Lindsay, what was it like for you?
for me, it was definitely challenging and hard, but I always felt relief after I did the exposures with my
Yes.
therapist because I could I could feel how much by not doing them and kind of avoiding them, I was like it was adding stress to my life and adding like weight
Right.
that I, need to carry on and by doing the exposures, I became more like confident in myself that I was able to like kind of do these exposures and be okay and like
Right.
know that like exposures are actually helpful and they get you through anxiety and OCD.
Right. And at first, it can likely sound counterintuitive. You want me to do what?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember my therapist was like there was one time this is in high school and he was like, "Okay, we're going to go outside and we're going to take a little trip to the dumpster." And I was like,
Oh boy.
"Okay, what are we going to do with the dumpster?" And it was like, "We're just going to, touch it and not wash your hands and then drink a cup of water and eat something." And I was like, "Hold on. I'm paying you what? To do what?"
Mhm.
And yeah, it was just like stuff like that where it was like, you had to like kind of have a level of trust with your therapist too. That was hard too.
Right.
And having like the support of your family or friends that are surrounding you so that, you know, they wouldn't put you in a situation that was like dangerous or put you in a
Yeah, that would hurt you.
that would hurt me, right? Yeah, it's just funny. Not
Wow. Yes,
funny.
the funny, not funny version
Yeah.
of it. Yeah, so let's talk about your business. I mean, you ladies are co-owners together of
Mhm.
presently. Is it
Mhm.
and you're creating bracelets with affirmations that are related to OCD, which in checking out the website, it's lovely. Lovely
Oh,
website. Yes, and I love the bracelet about embrace uncertainty.
yes, that is our most popular phrase by far.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I can see why, because uncertainty is so challenging. And I love your mission behind the bracelets because all these other, fluffy kind of affirmations out there, they don't really resonate the same way as like embrace uncertainty.
Emily
Yeah.
had a poster in college above her bed
Yeah.
that what said good vibes good vibes only.
Okay. So you've experienced that.
Yeah, it's funny because it was like a joke with my friends because I would say it out loud, like good vibes only. And now, obviously, that was before I went to therapy and realized I was obviously doing something very wrong. But yeah, so my relationship with the phrase good vibes only
We should make posters with our
is
things.
yeah, that would be nice posters. Is it's a very like tumultuous relationship.
Oh,
And yeah, and I
you've had to
think,
break up a few times and get back together,
yeah,
and are we
yeah,
broken up now?
we're broken up. Totally onto to better phrases.
Yes.
And so, the reason that we started it or what caused us to start presently, it was during COVID, we were both living at home and I was struggling with a few different things. Obviously, COVID in itself,
For
super
real.
stressful, especially if you have contamination OCD. And I was also, my boyfriend was starting law school in DC. And so that was going to start a like 3 year long distance relationship.
Mhm.
So that was super stressful. And I wanted And I know that, like, in therapy, when I'm in with my therapist, I
Mhm.
understand and I can fully do the things she's telling me to do, but for some reason, like, when you're by yourself and you're in your head and your anxiety is super
Yes.
high, like, it's very, very hard to remember what to do. Like,
Mhm.
I'm like, "I have all these tools from my therapist, why can't I just, snap my finger and do what she would tell me to do?"
Well,
Um
yeah, you're too anxious. Your nervous
Right.
system is, like, in full force.
Exactly.
So
So I thought, it might be a good idea for myself to get a bracelet with a phrase that might help me remember what she taught
oh,
me.
wow.
And I couldn't find one. I was looking up what's one phrase that would help me with OCD, or what's one phrase that encapsulates cognitive behavioral therapy.
Mhm.
And so I couldn't even find that to put on my own bracelet. And then I remembered a phrase that Lindsay had taught me
Oh,
that was my
big
thoughts are
sister.
yeah, that was my thoughts are passing clouds. That was the first one that was one I made for myself. I, put beads on a bracelet and, just made one of those basic bracelets.
Mhm.
And then I sort of like ran downstairs to Lindsay, who was working in like the living room. And I was like, I think we need to like make these. Cause at the time you were making bracelets, I think for fun, like
Mhm.
you were beading. And I was like, I think I have an idea. We should make these bracelets for people because they don't exist. And I'm sure so many people would want
Yes.
them. And yeah, that's how Presently was born. That's how the name Presently
Mhm.
um and the logo of the cloud sort of came to be because
Oh, I definitely see that. Yes, and
yeah,
I love the idea of presently because it reminds me of the mindfulness techniques of being
Yeah,
present in the here and
exactly.
now. So,
Yeah.
very
exactly.
well done on the branding.
Thanks, thanks. I am in advertising, so I will say I had a little,
You had some
experience.
experience. Yeah? Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, definitely a leg up on most people for sure. So, out of my own curiosity, how did you like go about creating like mass amounts of bracelets, to make jewelry sounds complicated. And then
Yeah,
to sell it to a large audience, I can
yeah,
only imagine. How did you do
yeah.
it?
So we had 0 experience.
Uh-huh.
0.
We had a huge whiteboard at our parents' house.
Did we?
A whiteboard where we made all this. Remember, that's where we like
Oh, that's where we but you're talking
brainstorm.
about the phrase development.
I'm just talking about the
Oh, yeah.
first like initial. That's our office.
Yeah, I mean, we had our office at our home, yes.
Yeah.
um, and we would just like literally just write on this whiteboard of all these like thinking about all the phrases and like the strategy of how do we like sell it to the people, like sell it to people.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
was like, what are common things that people worry about and what would be a helpful thing to say to them during that time. So the phrasing, coming up with the phrases was like sort of like the fun part. And then actually making like and because so we didn't want to make just beaded bracelets, those
Of
letter
course. Yeah.
letter beads
Yeah. Those are
would
good for VBS, but not
right.
your
And it would have
business.
been right, it would have been super easy to do, but we wanted something that was, like, beautiful and, like,
Mhm.
trendy and something that you could wear every day.
Yeah, honestly, they look very classy. Like, you wouldn't know that it's, like, some type of self-help bracelet.
Right,
Right.
right. Because typically you see the silicone bracelets or, a beaded bracelet, but we wanted something that was, like, actual jewelry that
Mhm.
I would wanna wear. And so just by Googling, figuring out how this process works of finding a manufacturer and all the different
Wow.
materials and trial and error. Like, you should see the first plaque that we made.
I have
Yeah.
it.
Oh my god, yes, we
Was
have
it
it
the
still.
sample of, like,
It
your
was
first
like
one?
yeah, it was a sample, but we totally misguided in, like, the size of it. It was like a plaque that was, like, this big, and it just we were like, "Oh my god, we don't know what we're
So
doing."
we had to make it smaller.
Of
So we had
course.
to make it smaller. But it was a lot of trial and error. And I think she's like a super woman. Like she literally just Googles anything and the next minute we have um
Like a
a
good prototype kinda thing?
yeah, like a prototype or a lighting expert at our door. I don't know. I'm just like or
Yeah.
like a product expert at our door.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so she's just very like agile in that way. But yeah, it was a whole learning process of trying to figure out how to get these to people and like
Mhm.
how we were going to use like social media as like a way to
Spread the
share our
word.
story
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, that was another big thing was like we wanted to use this as a platform to share what we just shared with you because
Yes.
it took so long for me to figure out I had OCD and I had someone living with OCD in my house. So like just imagine how many people are suffering silently that need, to
Yes.
hear someone else's story to realize they could, have a more enjoyable life by getting
Right.
help.
Right. And even when they do realize that it's OCD, not everyone is going to therapy because it likely, and I'm just assuming, right? But it may sound very intimidating to do exposure work.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
maybe having like the support or the tool of a bracelet
Right.
might be helpful. We're partnering with NoCD to raise awareness about OCD. OCD is more than what you see on TV and in the movies. Imagine having unwanted thoughts about your relationship stuck in your head all day, no matter how hard you try to make them go away. That's relationship OCD. It comes with unrelenting, intrusive images, thoughts, and urges about your partner or loved one. If you think you may be struggling with relationship OCD, there's hope. NoCD offers effective, affordable, and convenient OCD therapy. NoCD therapists are trained in exposure response prevention therapy, the gold standard treatment for OCD. With NoCD, you can do virtual, live, face-to-face video sessions with one of their licensed specialty trained therapists. It's affordable and they accept most major insurance plans. Breaking the relationship OCD cycle takes effective treatment. To get started with NoCD, go to nocd.com/savage. Have you guys thought about having a more masculine type bracelet, or do you already have one on your line of stuff?
Yeah, so we currently have a men's beaded bracelet, or we have 3 men's beaded bracelets, but we are potentially looking to make a more masculine plaque with like different engraving because the style right now is very dainty.
Mhm.
But we have customers who are men that order these bracelets. So
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah, I mean, they like them. But yes,
Yeah.
we have thought of that, and we just added kid sizes as well, which it's
Wow, that's
they're so
special.
cute. Yeah, the little tiny little beaded bracelet.
Yes. Well, and parents would even benefit from having this because it's hard, I'm sure for your mom, like,
Mhm.
once she knew what to do, it still didn't make it easy, like,
No.
having to not reassure you or to not give in to the compulsions because it's a whole family dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It
Yeah.
extends outside of therapy. It's
Mhm.
almost you're not in therapy, someone else has to do the right thing to
Right.
help you get better.
Yes, yes. So, Emily, did your boyfriend kinda come on board and do a couple things differently once you started to realize this was OCD?
Yeah, so I had met him in 2019. So I was already a couple years into therapy.
Oh, okay.
The boyfriend I was talking about was
Different
in
one. Yeah.
totally different. Josh was the one that, started long distance, went to law school. Um,
Okay.
now we live together, so it's great. I survived that 3-year period.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, he's definitely I think I told him I had OCD on our first date. I'm just like an open book. And
Uh-huh.
so he definitely right away was like, "Oh, you told me I'm not supposed to answer you, so I'm not going to answer you. I don't know what you want. I'm not answering this question because I know it's OCD." So he's very
Yeah.
good in that sense.
Yeah. Lindsay, do you have a support person or a go-to whenever?
Um, not a boyfriend right at the moment, but it's really like my mom, my sister, and
Mhm.
friends that,
Yeah.
I kind of use everyone to and they all know that I have OCD and people are just very supportive of it and get it. Um,
Yeah. What did your friends have to do different?
They just know that if I'm quiet or if I'm like, you know, asking something where they like kind of have a thought that it could be an OCD question. There was a lot of times where like being abroad and at school with my friends, like if you were like living with me, you
Mhm.
kind of saw it more because a lot of OCD is more inside your head. So not everyone
Right.
can really see it. But when you're like living with somebody and they can kind of like start seeing certain things or noticing certain questions. Like I'd be in Italy and questioning what the white
Mm.
stuff was on the bread. And my friends would be like,
Yes. Were you worried that it was, like, asbestos?
no, I just thought it
No,
was drugs.
just
So I was
drugs.
just concerned
Okay.
about,
Anthrax, something really lethal. That
some
Italian bread.
right. So
Yes.
I would start to, ask just like questions like that where they'd, look at me a little bit and I knew that they knew that that was
You're
OCD.
having a moment, yes.
But
Yes.
they got, I kind of had to teach them that if I have those questions, try not to like reassure me. Let me figure out if I'm going to eat
Yeah,
the bread or not. Not saying like
right.
it's,
So,
you're fine to eat
it
it.
may or may not be drugs.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Uh-huh.
So it's just, yeah,
Where in
typical
Italy were you?
Florence in Florence.
Florence. Okay. I lived in Italy for 2 years in Vicenza.
Ooh. So
Loved it.
you
I was
probably just visited
I was just
Italy.
visiting, but yeah,
You
I
studied
studied
abroad
abroad
in
in
sorry.
London.
Wow, London. See, I never got to go to London, but I've heard it's nice.
I actually lived in Italy, in Florence, for my study abroad.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, you guys are amazing.
yeah, so I am a big fan of Italy.
Yes.
But yes, at the time I wasn't I don't think I mean, obviously I must have been doing something when I was abroad. I actually should ask my friend who I roomed with if I did anything like, you know, freaked out about something
Oh,
Had a
or
cycle of some kind.
right, right.
Yeah. Wow. Well, very cool. And that's truly amazing to be struggling with OCD or, just knowing that an episode could happen or you could find yourself in a spiral, yet you're living overseas in a different country, essentially
yeah.
away from your support system.
Yeah. That was like I think the biggest thing or the thing that I kind of like always kind of remind myself is like how much I've gotten through since like
Yes.
going to therapy. It's like I didn't think I was going to college. Like there's no way. I couldn't even like I wasn't even able to go to school to eat lunch. Like
Wow.
I couldn't go outside my house without and drink something someone else had given me or like,
Mhm.
eat something at a restaurant. Like there was no way I was going to college. And so the ability that for me like going to college and like experiencing all that I experienced and then going abroad. And then I actually went to go see the Wicked play in London. My family wasn't too happy about that just because then they couldn't see it.
Oh,
But because I, had to like, I couldn't go when we were in New York. But
you made it.
yeah, but I did it. Yeah, exactly. So there's just a lot that it's, there's a lot that we've accomplished.
Yeah, so you two have both experienced a lot of success from your therapy. And with your customers, have you received some success stories from them, because of your bracelets?
Yeah, absolutely. Just thinking of one person in particular, she's purchased or she's gotten a bunch of bracelets.
Mm.
She had recently told us how she uses a different bracelet based on what she's going through at the moment.
Yes,
So
the
it's
theme.
kind of right. It's kind of nice to hear that, these bracelets can be used in, any situation and can be swapped out and, you know,
Mm.
but she said that that's really helps her. And we've gotten messages over the years, what you're going through is exactly what I'm going through. And so I feel so much less alone. And so thank you. And just hearing people say that they've actually felt more like mindful and felt more
Awesome.
present knowing that, this bracelet was on their wrist.
Yes.
Um, So that's the best part, is
That's so cool.
hearing people appreciate, what we're
Yeah.
doing.
And in noticing the details on your website, you've got a section for therapists, counselors, doctors, providers, etc. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so we actually put that on there because we went to the New York Mental Health Counselors Association conference,
Mhm.
the convention. I think it took place last April. And we went there because, who better to understand what we're doing than therapists themselves? Because this was
Yes.
inspired by them, by the work that therapists do. And so we went there, we had a table, we met a ton of people, and everyone totally understood what we were, what we had to share and what our bracelets were about. Because sometimes when you go to a holiday market, for example, people who don't go to therapy don't necessarily understand the importance of the bracelets. Like
True.
it takes a really like it takes a lot more explanation to get there than when you're, present
Seasoned.
right, than when you're presenting a bracelet to someone who has OCD or has anxiety or is a
Mhm.
therapist. So we wanted to go there and just meet people and, get their feedback. And so, in realizing that, you know, these therapists would recommend these to their patients, and, you know, it's a great tool for them to recommend and for them to just, this is what I'm teaching you. This is what the bracelet says. I'll practice
Right.
it home, sort of thing. So we wanted to make a page that was easy for therapists to understand our mission and for them to maybe order some, brochures to put in their office. That's
Gotcha.
so,
Yeah, do
um,
you find that some therapists or practices will order in bulk to give to patients or
so
resell to patients or
We
what?
we hope that that would be the outcome because we had just put that up. So, that's the goal, right? Is to get, a bulk order for a therapist to give to their patients or
Yeah.
so we haven't had that yet. We've
Mhm.
had people order like a bunch in one order, but it wasn't necessarily like a
Like
wholesale
that.
order.
Uh-huh. Well,
But yeah,
I could totally see it being a great client graduation gift.
yeah, exactly. That's what
That's what
we
a
were
lot of people
proposing
were saying. That
at the
yeah.
convention, was like this would be perfect for graduating or for completing a certain something. I
Right.
think it's more so just like getting the word out there
Mhm.
about it. That's the hardest part is,
The marketing.
exactly.
Yes. Yes, totally feel you there. It's not easy with all the noise
No.
Exactly.
that's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, the mission and the intentions that you ladies have behind this product, I think is going to go very far.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that.
OCD is not going anywhere. And if anything, we need more awareness and more support for OCD.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, really, if this bracelet helps someone go to therapy or live with that uncertainty or have success in a stressful moment, I mean, that would be a huge accomplishment. I mean, you can't put a dollar on that.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So this is such a special idea, and I just really love it.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. So, considering all of the things you've been through, and maybe part of this answer will pertain to the marketing, but how would you advise someone who wants to create like a meaningful business around mental health or a mental health message? What advice would you give them?
Being as open and honest with your clients and making sure that you're sharing your mission with them and making sure that yeah, kind of open and honesty. I would be
Yeah.
like
Just
I
being
think
authentic.
yeah,
Authentic,
authentic, yeah.
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 Yeah, and I think again, like going back to that authenticity, like people who, can relate to you or maybe not, they just really appreciate when, especially as a small business, when you know, they see the intentions behind like the business owners or
Mm.
they just really appreciate the effort going into the business. And I think if, and the other thing I was going to say actually was, if you're interested in starting a business, you know, related to mental health, start with your own experiences.
Mm,
Because when you share what you've been going through, that informs so much of, what do you need as someone with OCD or anxiety? Because if
right.
you need something, odds are someone else needs
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, and
And
it
so
creates that relatability.
Yeah.
exactly,
Mhm.
yeah. So just finding that true, I mean, this is like such an advertising thing, but finding that one human insight to connect to is like
Right.
key. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, exactly, and that's not something people normally teach you in any, uh, class. I mean, I don't of course, now, Emily, you've got the advertising experience, but I don't remember hearing anything about niching down or talking to your ideal client, like,
Yeah.
none of that. So,
No,
it
I didn't
this
even learn that, and I studied, for advertising. So
Oh
I
my
learned that.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you
It's crazy.
really learn it through experience and trial and error in trying to run a business. And then you're
Right.
like, how do I scale? How do I make more growth? How do I create more reach? And it's then you start to uncover those layers. And it's like, why is nobody
Exactly.
talking about this? I think it's probably a scarcity mindset thing, which that's for another day. I really value the abundant mindset, like freely give and share, and because
Mhm.
it's going to help people and it'll ultimately help you. But that's like
Right.
soapbox. But anyway. And so, ladies, how can people support your business and the mission behind Presently?
So you can go to at presently bracelets on Instagram and give us a follow, because I think, we've been struggling just to so many people and to just get new followers. Like our
Hmm.
current followers are very engaged, but we want to reach more
Wonderful.
people. So please give us a follow. We also have funny videos on TikTok. Um,
Awesome.
that some of the videos have gone viral, I will say, thanks to Lindsay, because I've
Oh.
a lot of her OCD moments with her permission, obviously.
Hmm.
And it really just people an inside look into, what we do on a day-to-day basis,
Or what it's
Hmm.
like to have
or what it's like to
OCD.
have OCD, right? And then visit our website and just take a look around. We have a quiz that you can take that helps you figure out which phrase might be best for you. Um,
Awesome.
and,
We have
people really like that, because it just, a lot of the times, like the one that they're thinking of getting is the one that the quiz spits out.
They need
Um,
that reassurance, huh?
yeah, I guess.
Imagine that.
there's also one if you like have someone that you think would need the bracelet, there's a
Yeah,
quiz for them as well. So taking it for
to give as a
to
gift.
give
It's
as a
like a
gift.
perfect gift.
Wonderful.
They're wrapped super cutely. I think we have one of the pouches over here. Let's
Yep.
see.
And we wrap them ourselves
Hand wrapped.
with a note.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, how special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all coming from us. It's just us two.
Just us two. There's no, it's funny actually, because there's people that will say something about like customer service. And I don't even remember
Yeah.
what it was. It was so long ago. And they're like, we'd really like to speak to the customer service team. And we're like, this is us.
You're
This is it.
you got it. You're already there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
So
my goodness. Wow. Well, I mean, that's definitely a powerhouse move because that's a lot to design, fulfill,
yeah.
package. Oh my goodness. But
Yes.
Our full-time job.
I know.
and you have a full-time job?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Goal is to quit our full time. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I'm sure it'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so the website, it's presentlybracelets.com.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I'll be sure to put a link in the show notes and I'll mention the website on all of the advertisements that I'll be doing for today's episode. I'll have some clips up on LinkedIn and YouTube. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So, ladies, with your experiences with OCD, while you did get help from an OCD therapist pretty early on, it was still a struggle. And
Mhm.
it sounds like there are times when it can still be a struggle even after you've started
Yeah.
therapy. What are, some messages of encouragement that you would have for the people listening today?
I think it's kind of like when you're experiencing an anxious feeling or moment or feeling. I just said that twice, but if when you're experiencing something that gives you such anxiety and it makes you uncomfortable, kind of, I would say my one suggestion would be like check check within yourself. Is this something that I've been through before? Is it something where I was given the tool to use so that I can, get through this?
Mhm.
Because a lot of times I think we get into this mindset of, oh my God, this feels very different, the new and
Oh, this one's worse.
right. Like,
Mhm.
but ultimately, I know from like my experiences, like I've been through this before. I've gotten through this before.
There
What
you
are the tools
go.
I've used? And like just because it is dressed up differently or just, give an example, just because it has a different name doesn't mean it's not from the same OCD, you
Right,
know.
and that you can't conquer it.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Emily, any words of wisdom or encouragement for people who are struggling with OCD?
Yeah, I think, I would say very similarly, just remember what you've been through before. And also, I think just like sharing your story is so helpful and just talking about it really like separates you from your internal intrusive thoughts
Yes.
and just helps you get out of your mind almost. It's dual sided because once you share your story, that helps someone else, and it's like a
Mhm.
ripple effect.
Yeah.
So I think
That's awesome.
sharing your story, telling someone about it
Yeah.
is super important. And
We see like
yeah,
the amount that it has like by just sharing your story and your own experiences, how much it has resonated with other people. And even if they don't tell you that it's helped them, like they could just be like, you know helps quietly. I feel like it's not necessarily like you need someone to reassure you that oh, what you've said to them has helped me. It's just like
you know that it's
knowing.
helped them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right. Kind of that confidence that you're planting a seed that will help
Mhm.
someone, whether
Yeah,
they tell you or not.
exactly.
You've planted something. And Emily, the other thing too, as you were sharing, I was thinking about how, back in college, you were silent in your struggle for years.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, and Lindsay, like for both of you, it sounds like just full circle, it has really changed your life to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's interesting because I also think that starting presently has helped me talk about it more because Lindsay has always loved to talk about it and to, you know, I feel like you've been in moments where you've shared and someone has been like, wow, like I can't believe I've been living like this and someone else is living
Yeah.
just like me. But it's
Mhm.
really not even therapy. It's been like running this company and like creating these bracelets that's helped me really talk about it. And I think like the first time I like said the things that I said to you, I said on a different podcast. And I think that's the first time my friends had heard about what I was
Yeah.
going through in college. So, yeah, I think it's really helped me share and come out of my shell. And, just easy. It's easier to talk about the more you talk about
Well, and you're bossing back to the OCD because it
it.
no longer is your
No.
boss.
Exactly.
No.
We're the boss.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and I really appreciate both of you coming to speak today because it really takes a lot of courage and bravery and vulnerability. And
Yeah.
just love how you ladies are stepping out to try to create change.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Yeah. Now, are there any special promos or discounts or anything for the listeners for the
Yeah.
Presently bracelets?
So there's that. There's for the holidays, we like to do a discount just to encourage people to not only gift themselves, but gift to other people. So
Okay.
if you use code give presently, it'll get you 20% off when you buy two bracelets or more. And yeah, I guess depending on when this episode comes out, for Black Friday, we're doing a tiered discount. So if you buy 3 bracelets, you get 30% off. If you buy 4
Okay.
bracelets, you get 40% off. So yeah, lots to save. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that we donate 5% of every bracelet purchase to mental health nonprofits.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so there are 4 different ones that we donate to, and you have the option when you select your bracelet to select which charity you want that portion of the bracelet to go
That's amazing. You ladies thought of everything.
to.
Sure did, sure did.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much again for being here. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for the both of you and your business.
Thank
Thank you so
you. So nice
much.
meeting you.
You too. We're partnering with No CD to raise awareness about OCD. OCD is more than what you see on TV and in the movies. Imagine having unwanted thoughts about your relationship stuck in your head all day, no matter how hard you try to make them go away. That's relationship OCD. It comes with unrelenting, intrusive images, thoughts, and urges about your partner or loved one. Breaking the OCD cycle takes effective treatment. Go to nocd.com to get evidence-based treatment. Again, what a lovely conversation and such a pleasure meeting these ladies. Through their bracelets, I hope their story and their bracelets give you the encouragement you need to take the next steps on your own journey. I encourage you to sign up for my upcoming program launching in January 2025 called Obsess Less, Love More, Rethinking Your Relationship Without Doubt. This is a 12-week group coaching program designed to help you get support in your relationship, whether you're going through doubts about, have I found the one? Or how do I know they're the one for me? Am I really in love? Or maybe you're in that singlehood space and staying stuck because you don't know how you're going to welcome a partner into your life. You don't have to have OCD in order to join the group. This group is primarily focused on the relationship doubts and those relationship worries. So if those worries have you spun up or stuck and you're ready to move forward into deeper love, more connection, go to my website at valuedriventherapy.com. Click on the tab that says Work with Erin and go down to Obsess Less, Love More program. And get signed up for this special pilot program pricing because I want you to be the first group of ladies to go through the program, give me feedback, and not only help improve your lives and your relationships, but potentially the relationship of others. This group is going to give you community and support like you've never had before. I'm here for you to help you show up in the best way possible for you and your true love. Come back next week where I'm going to be sharing with you a concept I've noticed and I have created a word around it. It's all about divorce ideation. This is a new term that I'm introducing to the world. I guarantee you haven't heard it before. Come back next week to hear more about divorce ideation so that you can get support in staying in your marriage and get the strategies and tips to love your spouse again. Okay, happy Friday and have a great weekend. Thank you for listening to another episode of Bossing Up, Overcoming OCD. This information is intended to be helpful and not a substitute for professional counseling. If you're struggling with any mental health challenges, I encourage you to seek help from a qualified therapist or healthcare professional. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review the show. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners, and don't forget to check out the affiliate links in the show notes for hand-picked recommendations that can brighten your day. Your support through these links helps keep the show running and provide valuable content. You're not alone in your journey. Stay strong, stay resilient, and keep bossing up. See you next time.